is Imperial Collection,
I am a little bit of everything.
And I am True Gamer.
and welcome to our video on talking about Alien Earth Episode 1, discussing and reviewing. Now, I rate the cinematography, I would say, a 9, and characters 9 as well for the character development, the writing. And I would rate the entire episode as 8 out of 10, I would say, definitely. What did you think?
Um, for me, I really enjoyed episode one, so I'm just gonna blanket 9 out of 10 for all of it. True.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Um, Character-wise, I'd say a 9 out of 10. I think they did really well with the casting. The actors performed. You felt how you were supposed to feel with the characters. The cinematography, I'd give it 8 out of 10. And overall, I would say an 8 out of 10.
Okay, back to you,
Okay.
Imperial.
Well, I'm going to discuss what I liked and disliked. Now, I really loved the beginning of it because it has so much references and bringing that magic back with the ship. The whole interior of it being the same as what it was in the first film brings that grounded and imagination and creativity back to what made it so special. And I love the outer design of the ship as the dome part what curves back to the thrusters. It reminds me very much of the xenomorph dome they have on their heads. So I thought that was a bit of like a interesting design and reflecting on that. But like I love the interior and like how it all begins where you get like just giving you a bit of information where it's talking about the cyborgs, the synthetics, and trying to find ways of like that little introduction of what the corporations and companies are trying to do in their time. But I loved all the detail, like we see in the helmet like control devices. I don't know what the specific name for them are in the control room. I love that, and how we see all the crew all together when very similar outfits to what was in Aliens, or Alien, I mean. And really, I like the how they've introduced some new lore with some of the stuff like the mother control room, the network where it has an impact room in the floor. Like we never had that, and like that's another question I think what's a bit though, like why didn't we not see that in the original film? But then there may be a reason. But I think it's quite interesting how we see the crew, where we see them their dynamic as well. Of course, from the trailers, you can't grow to like these people because you know that they're gonna die and stuff like that. But you get a bit of like, you see who they are and that. And the character Tang, I think it is the man. He's a bit of a creep, I must admit. He's at one time I thought he was synthetic, but at another scene, like there is some foreshadowing flashbacks, like forward and back, showing what's going to happen. So when I saw the scene where he's actually screaming at the xenomorph what's above him in the like the crates or whatever it is be it above him, I thought changed my decision that he's synthetic. I love the part where we actually get to the island Neverland, and I like all the references we see in the episode with Peter Pan and the Wendy and everything like that because there's so much inspiration from Peter Pan. What's built into this show. Um, but I love the whole design of the island and the all the technology and like, everyone like they're wearing like Sim McCraven style as well to that era. What I'm very interested to know like when we first interested into Mercy, no Marcy and Kirsch when we introduced those two characters. Like there's a dynamic between them. What I like it's like they're like friends or siblings in a way. There's something about them what's kind of sweet and like quite like he's being wise and mentoring her about the scorpion who found in the mess hall. So I think that's quite interesting. Like concerned about it and about the Scorpion and says about harming it when he's given her some advice to her and wisdom to change her mind. And so I think that's quite interesting. But I love the what they did with the ceiling in the transfer room, where it's a massive TV screen, and it's showing the Peter Pan film as well. I think that's a way of like helping the Wendy, well, transition into becoming Wendy into an adult body, and like to help ease the transition. So if we get something to calm them down and relax them, as a film can be relaxing. I like the Dr. Dane Sylvia. She's very much a parent figure to Marcy at that time, and she's then being supportive, but also at the time she's also trying to manipulate her still slightly, but in a kind way to still go ahead through with the process because she's Wendy at the time. She's got a bit of second thoughts about doing it. But I'm very curious to know if that machine, if it can actually transfer a consciousness, or is it just a massive photocopy of what only copies the mind and all that, and uploaded to a body whilst the original person still dies. So I'm very curious about that question. And Boy Cavalier, uh, he's a very interesting character. He's very much like Peter Pan. He's a boy genius, of course. He's abrupt, but like he seems to be kind of sweet at the beginning when he sees the Wendy at the transition room. And I like the name that she chose the name Wendy for her adult body, because that's like another reference to Wendy from Peter Pan as well. She's a parent figure as well, or like a mother figure, like what's in Peter Pan. So I find that to be interesting how this show takes a lot of inspiration and source material from the Peter Pan movie. And as well, I think it's kind of sweet where we see like how they wanted to like be a big sister to the other kids who are arriving. And I find the room as well where they doing like their initial like interview or discussion after when they are like she's in her robot body and she's talking to Dane Sylvia and Kirsch. Kirsch at this point though is being a bit cold and logical, but that's him. It's programming, of course, he has.
Mm.
And I like the outfit he's wearing. The cold demeanor of the grey uniform gives like a cold demeanor.
Yeah.
And Dane Silver still being there, being nurturing and kind, and being more there as well to help Wendy transition with what she's going through at the minute. And it's a funny joke the scene was with what you referenced about her older body. Like she's also been there as well to kind of teach Kirsch a bit about being a bit sympathetic and understanding because his cold logic and all that. But I find it when we see introduced to the kids, the others that are ill and that, you see if they all happy and they all have questions and that, and we see, of course, I must admit, when we see the young girl in the wheelchair who later becomes Curly, we don't know her name at that point, but when she said she will she be able to walk again, that didn't. I must admit that did bring a bit of emotional side because I went to school, I went to see when I went to school, there were so many students who were in wheelchairs for their disabilities and other reasons why. Hearing that, when you see that, when seeing the hope and smile that they'll be able to walk again and be happy and do things, I think that's something I think all parents and kids want to see that they can, from being ill to being able to do what others do. And as well, I think it's adorable that all the kids climbed on Wendy's arms and trying to swing and all that and fly. So that's like a bit of a sibling bond there of like trying to be like a big sibling and entertain your siblings. So I find that was a bit adorable. That was and kind.
Yeah.
But as well, of course, we had Boy Cavalier watching from the observation room above, like watching over basically like a hawk, watching,
Yeah.
studying them. I think like where we later on where we get to back to the ship where we see the ships on it's all mayhem's already happened and where we see like scenes and from us as well from the cinematography we're actually seeing through the eyes of the xenomorph at one point where you see it actually running like how it's moving through the corridors but you don't know what it's you didn't know you actually were looking for the eyes of the xenomorph at the time. I like that. Now Morrow, He's definitely stole the spotlight in the mystery and definitely the Captain Hook reference as well of like how he's very manipulative and how he's got a missing limb, like he's got a cyborg. I really like his cyborg arm because you would think, oh, if it would just have it look like his original arm, that it would just open up with the tools he has. But I didn't know it was just going to be complete transparent and see-through. But it might have been the technology if he had at the time. But I think that arm does look really cool because it makes it feel more futuristic and advanced at that time. And I find it as well how cold he was when he left the other crew member to be sacrificed, so he had more time reporting back to the company and giving his report. So I find that quite. He's very much like Ash from the first film, and I'm thinking, because he's a cyborg, how much is he man and how much is machine? Like, is the company got like a device inside his head what controls his free will? Like he could be given directives, and where he's unaware or control, you just don't know with that. Like I said, I like the impact room if it goes into, but there's some things I don't agree with the scene. When we get to the crash, well, the first crash is where they actually crash into this like orbital space station ring, and I find that a bit interesting because that would be technically in the law now that would be the first space station before. Oh, I forgot the base in the space station in Aliens. Gateway Station, that's it, I think it's called.
Yeah, I think so.
And like that was something cool to see and see like that shows like how bad the situation is because they literally collided with the station, but not completely, but damaged it slightly. And of course, that's I think where we were meant to dock with the ship or something like that. But and then we see later it comes in the city and how it crashes into the city. I think that was really cool how they did the shots for the crash scene and all that. And we of course we at that point as the ship's both to crash into the city, we're introduced to Wendy's brother, Hermit, and he's with the team and that. And I think I really like this scene when the ship is about to crash and he's immediately getting to action, says, call it in and all that. And Sigma Prime's going, like, they immediately go into action mode and go to the crash site and get into position and get everything they need, get medical transport, everything to help the people who have been injured and who could be in serious danger. So I thought that was quite cool to see a bit of action. And as well, I like the design of the Prodigy Towers because we're in New Siam, that city it's called. And I like the design and how it looks the city. And towers look very rectangular and very much like Cubism art style. So I think I really enjoyed that where we see a bit of the designs and the culture about built around that. What I like about though is like how they did the cinematography for the other kids though. So that was a bit more early in the film. I mean the episode, where we see in the episode where the other kids how they transition, how the camera goes around them, and how it does its little dips and dives where it's zooming in and out. Where at that time they're able to swap the characters, the actors, and all that to show the different transference scenes. And I found that was really good cinematography of how they did that. And I like the detail that all the kids that transferred had their own flower that they liked or represented something. So it gave a bit of humanity to them, or give a bit of humanity to them. So I like that a bit. We see them all being acting like kids in the episode, and I like that. Like we see all the kids being kiddish, and like the acting for the kids who now in the adult bodies, their acting is really good because they are literally definitely embodying the childness of what a kid is and the imagination of what skills and what they would act like. So I think that's really good from the actors from how they've done things and how they act with each other and how they act with the adults. What I find really interesting is like when, as well, Wendy, how she's literally watching her brother scene and using her abilities of being a synthetic, but she's a very advanced synthetic as her mind is a supercomputer and she can literally just do things on command and literally sit, watch and observe her brother. So you see that she's still missing her brother and all that, and I'm saying that's something she's missing her family and all that. So I think that's something good about that, showing that they miss their family, and that's like how we of course they set up getting to go to how the lost boys they're called, or the kids who've been transitioned. they go to the base, like go to the crash site. So I think that's a good way of how that set up the way of how Wendy wanted to be determined to get to her brother. So I think that was a good way of doing it. What I also like about that is like we see a bit of like we're still getting tested and that in some scenes, like Wendy's getting a hearing tested and the others are doing other things getting tested. And I think that's a good thing that we just don't have the product yet perfect, so they're still perfecting it for marketing basically. So I think that's really good what they're doing. So they're showing that it's not immediately perfected and they're trying to test them all out and seeing the flaws still. And I was very curious to know who's this. Why is this person in this like hazmat gear or whatever it is, like going around the place, like spraying or doing something? If they have like this cold, like gasping, like breathing, like it gives you a bit of chills, like, and wonder what's the person doing, or why are they fixing these like burnt or damaged or whatever these erosion areas are. Well, you never know. This island might be volcanic, and we just don't know about it yet.
Yeah.
So it could be interesting. I would think it'd be cool if it was volcanic and that they, like were using the volcanic geothermal power just to power the facility. I think that would be cool. But we have no confirmation yet about that. That's just mere speculation, of course.
Mm.
But I love the definitely Neverland's interior, the design as well, of where we see these cold grey hallways and where we do see areas where it has like life with plant life, and I think it does feel like a facility, but also at the same time it feels like a nice retreat in a way in areas. But I like how we see all these characters of how they've all been acting and how they've been wrote to be this way. So I think the acting has definitely been well done, definitely, and the writing and development. So I'm very impressed with it. So I must admit that's my take on the good take about the episode.
Mm.
The thing I don't necessarily agree with about the episode, though, is that the xenomorph, the texture of the xenomorph, how it looks, it just looks too in the dome and shiny areas. It looks plastic, and the just the regular skin, it looks too rubbery. Of course, you see some slime dripping down, and like it just needed something about it. Just maybe the dome needed to be a bit transparent or something, or made to be less shiny or something. It just felt it felt like something that any cosplayer could possibly make, in my opinion. I do like the design of it, how it looks, all the different changes, like the ribcage change, the tubes on the back, how they've been shortened. So there's some positives with that.
Mm.
But talking about the xenomorph as well, I thought how brutal and strong it was to literally smash its head through that glass and the door, and how we literally as well see it though, how it kills and how ferocious and deadly. We see more of a deadliness with the xenomorph since a while, since the last time we saw the deadliness of it was in Alien Covenant, where we saw how xenomorphs and neomorphs were very deadly and fast and ferocious. And well, we don't see much of that deadliness. Of course, we see that horror in Alien Romulus, though. But I thought the thing that I don't though still don't like about that scene is like the impact room. It's getting like the xenomorph does get inside the mother room, smashes through the glass, and literally with its brute strength does smash the door open, and I think that's really cool to see. But the thing I don't agree with, because if it's an impact room, uh, and the room was getting like scratched, and you saw the dents when Mara was got inside of it, and how the big dents, and that's meant to be an impact room, so it's meant to be tough. So if it couldn't get its head into that, and it's shown the immense strength of how powerful its headbutts are, then why did it have to try a few times to smash the glass? It should have instantly broke that glass instantly. And so, yeah, I didn't agree with that bit because it's showing how strong the head is if it smashes glass, and then showing how then later trying to go full to toe with a glass panel door was like reinforced. So I thought that glass should have broke instantly. So yeah, that's the thing I do not agree with the episode is that, and I think they could have at least. I would have liked to seen a bit more of the characters at the beginning of the crew instead of some of this like flash forward and back and forth, like foreshadowing. I like the foreshadowing in some ways, but I would have liked to have had a bit more just to get to know them a bit more, so that you could later then sympathise with them. So that's the downside I would also think. But as well, the crash ship scene, I really do like how it crashes. But there is one problem with that though as well, I should remember, is that if the massive spaceship was heading towards a city and you see it in the sky before it crashed, like why was there no sirens? Why was there no alerts going off? Like to alert there was a spaceship because it's a big spaceship. You can see it's coming. So why was there no sirens off? It's a heavily populated city. So I'm thinking, why was there no alert? So I think that's one of the drawbacks to it. And as well, where we actually see the team get to the crash site and where they walk about to enter in, there's this one guy who's walking and then suddenly the debris smashes right on top of him. And like the soldiers react like nothing. And yet I think that must have been added in later in the production, like the editing. Because if you saw that debris suddenly next to you when a man was just near you, and that wouldn't you be startled a bit, or suddenly try and watch what's going on in the sky because you don't know if the building's collapsing above you? So I thought, yeah, that they could have just reacted to that, but that's what I liked and that's what I disliked about the first episode. So, what was your thoughts on?
So let me find my notes that I prepared. Yeah. So mine's gonna be short and sweet. I really did like the characters. They did pick some really good actors for each of the characters. I love Wendy. She's just got this sweetness about her, and yeah, she's just what you picture like a motherly figure to be. I loved how when it started, it felt like you were going into another Alien movie. Not, I don't count Prometheus and Covenant an Alien movie, but yeah, going into this, it was really enjoyable. I get the goosebumps. That Alien, um, big Disney fan, so the reference to Peter Pan, can't fault it. Let's have a look. I had to watch it twice though because the beginning bit is so fast. I didn't pick up on all the little subtleties. I even had to make sure subtitles were on so I didn't miss anything. But the second time round, I got a better sense of what was happening in that opening scene. Shameless plug here. Aliens do not reverse. So jump over to my channel and see my comedy skit of Alien reversing. Yeah, they did really well with the characters again. I dislike Morrow. I have from the beginning. Tang, I thought straight away he reminded me of Ash from the first one, and he creeped me out. It was weird though. The members of the ship look like the bodies of the Lost Boys, as I call them. It was weird how there was like a very similar look to all of them. So at first, I thought that the Lost Boys, it was them in the future. But until I watched further into the episode, I realised that wasn't true. Let's have a look. I love Timothy's character because I'm a Timothy Oliphant fan, so I liked how he was a father figure. He just has him and Dame Sylvia seem to be the mum and dad in this. Boy Cavalier just reminds me of like another sibling, just like one of the brainy siblings that lords it up over everybody. The visuals were stunning. I really loved it. It really did feel part of the universe it was actually meant to be in. It just, yeah, you could just get immersed in the environment, which was good. Let's have a look. I always wondered if Wendy was gonna go rogue. Like, because she's like the perfect character at the beginning, I wonder if she's going to have an arc where she goes bad or does something that's not in the norm. But my favourite scene is like at the 19-minute mark. and it's when Dame Sylvia and Kirsch are talking to Wendy once she's in her new body. And it's more the art style that I like. I like how when you look at the scene and you've got Dame Sylvia and Kirsch sat next to each other, Dame Sylvia's side is full of colour, it's vibrant, which suggests life. And then if you look behind Timothy's character, Kirsch, it's grey and faded out, and he sort of blends in with the background, which reminds me of a character that Robin Williams played from 1 Hour Photo. How they just blend into their environment, which suggests to me that he's not living. There's no, the lack of colour suggests the lack of life. And then when they pan over to Wendy, yes, there is a tiny bit of grey that represents that part of her that's not really living, but most of it's in colour, which suggests to me that she's got more humanity still in her, even though she is technically a robot with just human thoughts. I actually really enjoyed the soundtrack. It gives me really good vibes when I listen to it. The Lost Boys, you can't help but smile at them. You feel like you can't help but love them. And when they're with Wendy and that whole bonding thing, she is like a big sister, mother to them. And they did really well with this show and getting the characters right for everybody. The young children were good, even though they're in it for a short amount of time. You felt how they felt about being sick and getting these new bodies. They were excited. And then when they get their new bodies, it was just really, really good. So I am genuinely happy with this episode. I think the only thing I didn't like was the fact that I had to rewatch it again, but that's fault on me and the alien reversing. So for me, I'm out. True, it's you.
Okay, so now time for the darker side of the episode. The impact room. Questions as to why was it not in the later ships. It's unknown. It's a good idea though. But you know, it's a decision that they made. And to the flower, there's my thoughts on the flower for the when the children are doing the transitioning. Is it seems very funeral like. They're laid there obviously with the flower on them of their choice. So it's like saying goodbye to their old, you know, to their past and their old bodies. But it could be like a recognition of that. So that's interesting. Again, I did have to watch it more than once to sort of get the gist. I did originally think that Wayland and Yutani were separate, which would make sense for the five great powers. But they are together, which means there's more of these other powers in the universe or in Earth, which is yes, it's more avenues to explore, but again, they haven't added it into the later lore, so we know that their demise is incoming at some point. The casting was fantastic. You know, everybody did what you wanted them to do. You felt the emotions you were supposed to feel. They gave off, you know, airs of how they were supposed to. Timothy, very cold, very logical. Morrow, very sort of the security, the company matters, and people are expendable. Yes, we dislike him for it, but that's his designation is to be calculated, and the company comes first. Dame Sylvia, a very caring, kind, considerate, compassionate person who cares for Wendy. Boy Cavalier is a little bit of an odd one. And initially I thought that was because of, he's a genius, he's rich, that kind of thing. Like he hasn't experienced the real world as far as a normal human being wandering the streets kind of thing. And that kind of offers a dimension to him that of naivety, that he doesn't know how to interact with people, and that sort of works with the casting and how he behaves, which I think was fantastically done. And Tang, I think, was a red herring, a very well placed red herring, because you think he's a synth, but he's just a person. That was quite well done. The Lost Boys and girl again were really, really well done. The child characters and the synth body versions. Like I say, they made you feel that emotion of we're sick, we everything, all our hopes and dreams are pinned on going into these new bodies, which I thought was really, really well played. There are, if you want to think about it in a darker way, there are some very dark undertones and very not good and kind reasons for why they're doing it. And I think that is a different side that maybe you don't see when you're watching, but you think about afterwards. Because obviously when you're watching it, you're in all the wonderment and all the, oh yeah, this is fantastic and everything. And then afterwards, it could leave you with questions of, oh, why are they doing this? Why are they pick children? And yes, they explain bits and pieces why it's to children. But there's very obvious reasons why they do certain things. They've chosen children who are sick and poorly, which could be easily exploitable, and going on board the spaceship and taking what is theirs just because it's landed there. And obviously you find out that the brother, Hermit, obviously believes that she's passed away and that they're not allowed to see each other, which is like isolation, isolating her from the bit of family that she has. And obviously the children are isolated from their family because they're there on the island alone. So just some dark theories there pervaded in the background for the audience to think on. Any other dark or even light theories that the audience has, drop them down in the comments below. Be interesting to read what you guys think. And I think that's my I did forget Hermit in my character part. He was very well done, not this bold, brashy, I'm a medic, I'm going to save everybody, a bit sort of reserved, which is a different sort of take on a military person. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the episode.
Well, it's good night from me, a little bit of everything.
It's good night from you. Thank you very much, guys and audience.
Well, thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe, and we would love to hear your thoughts and opinions of what you liked and disliked about the series itself. And have a good day.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.